I know it's fucked up, but I tell you the truth. You know, everything's funny. Everything's funny till it happens to you. 3 months, a mere 3 months after that terrible attack that Chris Rock endured, I was on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, and a lunatic jumped out of the crowd and attacked me. Now, I gotta tell you, if it happens to you, you don't even know what the fuck is happening. It was like slow motion. I just looked over. I don't know this nigga. And I just looked and said, oh my God, I'm being attacked. And this motherfucker was ragged. He jumped at me. He was like, ah! I'm old, but I'm fast. I caught this motherfucker's head with my hand and pulled his hoodie over his eyes. I can still feel his head in my hand. It was spongy. He had been growing dreadlocks. Not the beautiful dreads that rastafarians grow. These were accidental LA homeless dreads. This shit had leaves and sticks and bottle caps and shit in it. Some kind of grease. I was like, ugh, like this. And then I fell down. And he knocked me all the way on the ground. And I was like, man, this is a bad situation. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna die or what's gonna happen. But in that moment of vulnerability, you know what occurred to me that had never occurred to me before in my life? In that moment, it occurred to me that bodyguards should not wear dress shoes to work. Travis! This nigga Travis came out slipping and sliding on some kind of beautiful loafer and fell flat on his back. Bop. I said, oh my God. Now both of us are down. I gotta handle this shit myself. So I popped that back, boom. And then the kid that knocked me down, he popped out, boom. And we looked at each other and realized at the same time, I was bigger than him. And that motherfucker took off running. And I started to chase him and I said, fuck him. I picked the microphone up. So I'm gonna finish this show now. That's right. For 3 months before that, I'd been making fun of Chris Rock. And people would ask me all the time. They'd say, Dave, what would you do if you were Chris Rock and Will Smith slapped you in the face? And to this day, the answer is the same. Well, I don't know what I would have done. I've never been in a situation that extreme. But I do know now what Will Smith would not have done. And that is enjoy the rest of his evening. Man, listen. We gave that kid a good while. We was whooping his ass. Not we. I mean, I was on stage trying to think of a joke to tell, but they was beating this nigga up right behind me. Everybody could see it. Everybody could see it. And I'm sitting up there trying to think of what to say. And I'm tongue-tied. Me, of all people, can't think of anything to say. Look at my karma. Just that moment. Of all the people in the world, Chris Rock walks from backstage, walks up to me in front of 20,000 people, grabs the mic out of my hands and looks at the crowd and goes, was that Will Smith? Man, motherfuckers fell out of their chairs laughing. I was standing there looking stupid. I was fucking furious, because I'm thinking in my mind, nigga, this is my attack. You got attacked 3 months ago. Now you have jokes. So I snatched the mic back from Chris and tried to get one off, but my shit did not go good at all. I didn't know what to say. I was just like, it was a trans man. And the crowd was like, boo. It's LA, we like trans people, boo. I know, it felt so bad. I felt so bad. But I know why I did it. You'd have to be there to understand, but man, when that guy tackled me, it was like it's like a movie or something. You gotta picture this. Picture a famous person you like. Every famous person you could imagine was at that show. It was like the biggest night that Hollywood had ever seen. And when that guy tackled me, he cleared the bleachers. I had to watch the tape afterwards to know this happened, but as soon as he tackled me, Jamie Foxx was the first motherfucker that jumped out of the crowd. He was wearing a white cowboy hat like he knew this shit was gonna happen to him. Never seen this nigga in a cowboy hat before. And Jamie started chasing that motherfucker around like any given Sunday. And that kid was fast as shit, was juking and shaking, and he broke Jamie's ankles, and he just kept running. And then Jon Stewart from The Daily Show ran from backstage and jumped at this motherfucker like Super Jew. He was like, ah! And the kid seen John coming, so he jumped back, and John went flying that way. And this kid was fast. And then he turned around. He sees the emergency exit. He starts running for the emergency exit. Just before he got to the door, motherfucking Puff Daddy from Bad Boy Records jumped in front of the door. That nigga was like, Boy, Puffy got that motherfucker. And then every celebrity just ran out because every celebrity saw themselves in me, and they just started beating the fuck out of that kid. And I know Chris was backstage looking like, nobody helped me. Everybody hates Chris. Thank you. Thank you. I like not knowing what's gonna happen. I like making memories. Sometimes I do all this crazy around my colleagues just so that they can tell their friends I did it. But rather than talk about myself, just briefly, I want to just talk about my genre. Stand-up comedy is an incredibly American genre. I don't think any other country could produce this many comedians. And unbeknownst to many people in this audience, I don't think there's opinion that it exists in this country that is not represented in a comedy club by somebody. Each and every one of you has a champion in the room. We watch you guys fight, but when we're together, we talk it out. I know comics that are very racist, and I watch them on stage, and everyone's laughing, and I'm like, that mother means that. Don't get mad at them, don't hate them. We go upstairs and have a beer, and sometimes I even appreciate the artistry that they paint their racist opinions with. Man, it's not that serious. The First Amendment is first for a reason. The Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out. We gotta let some air out of the ball, man. The country's getting a little tight. It doesn't feel like it's ever felt in my lifetime. So tonight, I am honored that my colleagues are here in comedy and in music. And I want everyone in America right now to look at me. Look at me smoking indoors. I didn't ask anybody, I just did it. What are they gonna do? Kick me out before I get the prize? No, nigga, this is called leverage. The thing that I liked best about tonight was that I saw so many people from different parts of my life, like friends that I grew up with here in DC, friends of mine from Ohio then and now, friends of mine from comedy clubs, all the musicians that blew my mind. You guys have no idea how you inspired me. I want to give a special shout out to my OG, Tony Woods. Miles Davis has a quote. It's one of my favorite. Miles Davis said so much cool shit, but one of the things he said I always loved, he said, it took me years to learn how to play like myself. You know, he would watch other musicians and he would try to play like Dizzy or Bird, all the guys who were great. Tony Woods was my Dizzy and Bird if I was a Miles. I was trying to play like you. You were the first person I ever saw do it absolutely right. You were fearless and you told the truth. There's something so true about this genre, when done correctly, that I will fight anybody that gets a true practitioner of this art form's way, because I know you're wrong. This is the truth and you are obstructing it. I'm not talking about the content, I'm talking about the art form. Do you understand? Do we have an agreement? And what I really wanted to say tonight, and I'm glad I get the platform to do it, I'm gay. I am gay, and I can't wait to see what this does for my career, being gay like this. So many special shout outs. One of the main architects of the comeback of the century, my brother and my mentor, the mighty Stan Lathan. I never dreamed that I would be able to work with someone as great as you. These last 5 specials, straight fire. I wouldn't want to do another special with anybody else but you. So eat your mother vegetables and live as long as you can, because we doing a few more of these bitches. Neil Brennan, your speech made me cry because it reminded me of all those hard days of work and all that money I never got for it. The other real special shout out I gotta make, because none of this would have been possible on any level without this person, is my mother. Mom. My mother. Mom. You have no idea what I put this woman through. If you had just given birth to me, that would have been more than enough. But the fact that she raised me and raised me well, we had a real oral tradition in our house. I knew the word griot when I was a little boy. A griot was a person in Africa who's charged with keeping the stories of the village. Everyone would tell a griot the stories and they would remember them all so that they could tell future generations. And when they got old, they'd tell them to someone else. And they say in Africa, when a griot dies, it's like a library was burnt down. And my mother used to tell me, before I ever thought about doing comedy, she said, you should be a griot. And she'd fill me with every story of black life. You know, she's educated in African-American studies, and she would let me understand the context that I was being raised in, that I'm being raised in a hostile environment that I have to tame. By the time I was 14 years old, I was in nightclubs, mastering an adult world. It was terrifying. The crack epidemic was going on, and my mother would hear gunshots outside and be scared to death. Maybe it's my son. But early in my career, if you remember, Mom, you used to sit in the club with me. She'd do a full day of work. You'd be back there falling asleep, just waiting for me to go on. She would watch my show every night. Do you know how long that car ride is home? How many of you have ever heard your mother say, jokes were a little too much tonight, son? I was a soft kid. I was sensitive, I'd cry easy, and I would be scared to fist fight. And my mother used to tell me this thing, I don't even know if you remember, but you said this to me more than once. You said, son, sometimes you have to be a lion so you can be the lamb you really are. I talk this like a lion. I'm not afraid of any of you. When it comes word to word, I will gab with the best of them, just so I can chill and be me. And that's why I love my art form, because I understand every practitioner of it. Whether I agree with them or not, I know where they're coming from. They want to be heard. They got something to say. There's something they notice. They just want to be understood. Love this genre. It saved my life. So tonight, Mom, I would like to honor you in a very special way that I cannot do on my own. But because now I'm a man with great and influential friends, I'd like to ask my man Thundercat to come out on the stage. Thundercat, the Mighty Most Def. Washington, D.C., thank you very much for giving me a home and a place to start. Today is officially Dave Chappelle Day in Washington, D.C. The mayor declared it last night. Okay, before I did Killing Them Softly, when I was 22, HBO gave me the biggest opportunity of my life at that time. They gave me a half-hour special, but this shit was not like a special, you know what I mean? It was like, it was generic. It didn't even have a title. It was just Dave Chappelle. And I shot it in San Francisco at a place called Broadway Studios, which is on the second floor of a building. And beneath Broadway Studios is a nightclub. And the special was only supposed to be 30 minutes. And I got ready, I practiced, I did all the shit I was supposed to do. And the night that I taped, 20 minutes into my 30-minute set, I'll never forget this, music started blasting from the nightclub underneath. You could hear it real loud, and it fucked my whole show up, and I was devastated. I was a young man. I really believed in what I was doing, and I thought that my dream had been killed. So when I got off stage, I ran down the steps to the alley behind Broadway Studios, and where the control trucks are parked, and I kicked that motherfucking door open, and I started yelling at all the producers. I was nobody in show business, just a guy that believed in us. I said, man, you fucked everything up. That fucking music, what the fuck were you thinking? And there was a guy who was a big-time producer, I ain't saying no names, and he stood up, and he said, hey, kid, sit the fuck down. He said, we didn't ruin anything. He said, we made a deal with that nightclub to not play music, and they didn't honor the deal. And I said, who didn't honor the deal? And he pointed to a guy. I'll never forget, it was an old white man sitting in the Ford Taurus by himself. And he said, that guy right there. And I didn't waste no time or ask no questions. I went to that Ford Taurus, and I beat on that window, and I said, open the door, motherfucker, I want to talk to you. And that old man looked at me for 1 second and wisely drove the fuck off. And left me in the alley cussing at anybody who would listen. And 2 minutes later, literally 120 seconds later, couldn't have been any more than that, the doors of the kitchen in the alley of that nightclub underneath Broadway Studios flung open. And that old man was standing there, that same old man with reinforcements. He had 2 big goons with him, and he looked at me, and he was calm as a cucumber. He said, you, come here. I want to talk to you. I didn't know anything about the streets at this age. But I found out later in my life that these men were Russian mobsters. And I don't know what you guys know about the Russian mob, but these are the niggas that killed Denzel in Training Day. And all the producers knew what I was up against. They said, Dave, do not go in there. And I said, fuck y'all. And I walked right into that kitchen, and they closed the doors behind me, and it got dark as fuck in there. And I knew, I'm not dumb, I knew I was in a bad situation. But you have to understand, I believed in what I was doing, and I didn't give a fuck. I just kept cussing at these motherfuckers, telling them how they ruined my life. And that old man couldn't believe that I was talking all this shit. And as soon as I took a breath, he stopped me gently. He said, hey, kid, listen. Your friends lied to you. He said, we made a deal, but your friends never paid me. And when he said that, I realized I was locked in the kitchen. I realized he was telling the truth, which would make me wrong. And the very moment that I realized I was wrong, for the first time, I was afraid. You see, it's a funny thing if you believe you're absolutely right. You can get drunk off the feeling of how right you are. That's why gay people are so mean. I started doing stand-up comedy when I was 14. I'll never forget the first time I was on stage. The guy that introduced me was a guy named J.T. Newton. I'm 47. I can close my eyes and remember the introduction like it was yesterday. It went like this. Ladies and gentlemen, this next young man coming to the stage is starting his comedy career tonight. Who knows? We may be witnessing the birth of a star. Please welcome David Chappelle. From the first time that I ever held a microphone, I was sure this was it. I knew I was home. I knew I had found my thing. And my God, man, I was a child. I got good. Matter of fact, I was good from the moment I started. And I'm not saying this to be a braggart. I'm telling you the truth. These old niggas was in awe of me. How is this little boy so poised? They used to say. I was. I mean, I got better, but it started out good. About a year into it, when I was 15 years old, I had written a joke during the AIDS epidemic about having a Goodyear condom. Something, I don't even remember the joke. Something about an industrial strength condom by Goodyear. I just remember all the comedians really liked that joke. And there was an older comedian. And he came to me one night after the show, after he saw the joke, and he said, listen, I got an audition at another comedy club, and I was wondering, do you mind if I do that joke? I just want to borrow it. Now, I'm a kid. I don't know any better. I'm like, borrow it? Well, I guess, sure, if it'll help your career. I let him do the joke. And then weeks later, I was waiting to go on at a comedy club, and he went on before me, and he did the joke. And after the show, I pulled him aside and I said, hey, man, I don't mind you borrowing my jokes, but you got to give them back. He said, oh, I forgot to ask you. He goes, let me buy that joke from you for $50. And I said, man, I'd do it, but I'm just starting out. I need all the material I can get. The idea being that the more material I can accumulate, the faster I'll be able to make money for my work. I said, I can't do it. I want my joke back. I'll never forget this. Remember, I was a 15-year-old child. This guy was a grown-ass man. He stood up over me so I could see how big he was. And he said to me, really? I can just take it. And he did. I got scared because I was a child. But I never forgot that. I never forgot that. I was 15 years old. I'm 47 now. I think about this guy all the time. When I look at my own kids and I see how young and innocent they are, I can't believe someone did that to me. And I don't think about it every day because that was the worst thing that happened to me. I think about it every day because that was the first time that someone ever did that to me. But in my career, it has happened many, many times since, where someone would intimidate me or scare me and take something that I believe was mine. I'll tell you another story. Now I'm 18 years old. I'm living in New York City, and I just finished my first road tour, which was a very difficult tour. I'll spare you the details. Now I'm back in New York, but my rent is paid, thank God. And I have $60 to my name. And a woman that I had met in Pittsburgh, a bad Dominican bitch, was coming to New York. She was going to spend the weekend with me. I couldn't wait for her to get there. She was coming that evening. But remember, I only had $60 for a whole weekend to entertain a bad bitch. Now, I'm walking through Greenwich Village, and I see something I've never seen before. 3-card Monte. You know what that is? Yeah, the guy had the whole thing. The table was set up, and he had the 3 cards, and the crowd was hooting and hollering, and he was like, find the red card, find the red card, and people were playing. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, but it was really exciting, and I'm standing there watching it, and I noticed, while I'm watching them play this game, that the red card, the one you're trying to find, had just a little bend on the corner. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, yo, this guy doesn't seem to know that red card is bent. I'm going to beat this motherfucker. And I walked up to the table, and I said, let me play a hand. And I put my last $60 on that table, and he starts to shuffle and find the red card, find the red card. And I kept watching that bent card go around the table, make sure I kept my eyes on that bent card. And when he stopped shuffling, and he said, find the red card, I pointed to it with confidence. Here it is right here. And he flipped it over, and it was black. And he took my money. I couldn't fucking believe that. How did this nigga do that? Was that magic or sorcery? I was confused. So you know what I did? I sat there and I watched him for a real long time play the game. And I realized that all those people who was doing all that hooting and hollering and betting, my God, they were his friends. They were in on the whole thing. I felt so wronged. I felt so stupid. And then the next sucker came up to the table and was about to put his money down. And I said, fuck that, man. Don't put your money there. All these niggas is in on it. It's a trick. And when I said that, the guy that was dealing, and this motherfucker was huge, snatched me up by my collar. Feel how strong he was when he grabbed me. I was a skinny little guy. And he was gonna maul me. And the only reason he didn't, I'm sure, is because he saw the fear in my face. And that fear, he looked at me. I saw his eyes go from hard to soft. He softened. Then he looked at me like the way a father would look at a child. And he said to me, young man, don't ever come between a man and his meal. I never forgot that either. Most niggas would have to run the streets for years to learn a lesson that profound. It took me 2 seconds. Never get between somebody and their paper. Taking a man's livelihood away from him is akin to killing him. Look, it was way more intense than what you guys might have read. I don't know what you read, but the kid, while we was beating on him, reached in his waistband, pulled out a .22 caliber pistol. That shit was mayhem. Everybody started screaming, oh my God, he's got a gun. He's got a gun. And then I got scared. I was in the back, but I was scared. Because I knew that everybody that was with me was armed. Yes, if they had shot and killed this kid on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, like I pay you to do, Travis. But Travis G'd up. Travis wrestled the gun out of the kid's hand, and then he took it like this and tried to chamber the round, and he couldn't. So he pulled the trigger, and it wasn't a gun. A knife blade popped out of the front. I guess this kid was gonna stab me. Some scary shit. So the next night, even though I didn't have a show, I said, I gotta get right back on stage. And I went and did a show. And someone in the audience screamed out, Dave, what happened with the attack? And I didn't know there was a journalist in the room. All I said was that this nigga had a knife that identified as a gun. I got 6 more weeks of bad press for that joke. I didn't even do nothing to this nigga. That's not right. That was not right. And then the New York Post went to the jail and interviewed my attacker like he was some kind of hero. And I read that interview. It turns out the entire attack was my fault. Yes, I triggered him. I didn't mean to. I had done jokes about the homeless. It turns out this young man was homeless. And I mean, there's no way I could have known this. But I will say, for a homeless guy, this nigga had incredible seats. Oh, and they said I triggered him because I had done LBGTQ jokes, and it turns out this fella was a bee. That was the headline in the article. It said, Dave Chappelle's alleged attacker is bisexual. I said, alleged attacker? This motherfucker definitely attacked me. I'll show you the tape. He's allegedly bisexual. I'm gonna need to see him suck somebody's dick before I believe the rest of this article. I read that shit in the paper. I was horrified. I was like, oh, bisexual? I could have been. No, you know what, though? It's not funny because after all that madness ensued, I went to the hotel room. I was by myself, and I opened the door, and my wife was in there alone. She was sobbing. Like sobbing. I said, oh my God, what's wrong with you, bitch? Did you get attacked too? And she's crying. She said, oh my God, David. She said, if you had died tonight, me and the kids would have nothing. Then I knew it was serious. So I sat down on the bed next to her. And I reached in my pocket, I pulled some keys out that she had never seen before. She said, what are those keys? And I gently placed them in her hands. I said, sweetheart, those are the keys to my safe deposit box. God forbid anything ever happen to me. But if it does, don't even worry about it. You and the kids have everything you need in that box. I've already taken care of it. And she was looking at them keys, and I could see her mind realize what we were actually talking about. And then she just started crying harder. And to be honest with you, that made me cry a little bit too. And we hugged each other real tight. Do you know this bitch looked in the box while I'm alive and well? Who does that? Oh my God. And then she was mad at me. She said, God damn it, David, I opened that box. I said, you did? She said, yes, I did. And there was nothing in there. I said, nothing? Oh. She said, nothing except your stupid joke book. I said, whoosh. She said, well, sweetie, look. If you tell those jokes exactly how they're written, you and the kids should be fine. They're really good jokes. She's like, good jokes? What is this shit? Come join me in my watery grave. No, you gotta roll your throat. Join me in my watery grave. She's an amateur in stature, but in practice, she was very professional. She showed up early, which is something I appreciate, because I like people to be on time. She was dressed to the motherfucking nines. I mean, I'm transphobic, and even I was like, you look nice. Went up on the stage with all the swag of a professional comedian, grabbed that mic and walked right down the middle and looked at the crowd like a gangster. Man, you should have seen her work. This bitch bombed for 45 minutes straight. And I am not exaggerating, young man. That show was terrible. Stunk. Stunk. And then she brings me on, and you know, I was like a glass of water after a handful of salt. The crowd was happy to see me. I was killing it. But here's what impressed me. Any other comedian I've ever seen, if they had bombed as bad as she did, would have snuck out of the back of the theater and went home and cried or something. And she didn't do that. Not only did she not leave, she found a seat right up in front. You know, when a new comedian watches an experienced comedian in comedy, we call this taking class. And this bitch took my whole class. She sat up there and was laughing as hard as she always laughs, as if nothing bad had even happened to her. And I saw her show. Something bad happened to her. She was drunk. So she starts talking to me while I'm on stage. But the way a person would talk to a television when they were alone. She's talking to me like that. That didn't bother me because I knew her. But the crowd didn't like that shit at all because she sucked. And a guy in the back of the room stood up. And Daphne's hair was dyed blonde at the time. And the guy screamed out. And his energy felt wild as fuck. He said, hey, Daphne! And everybody kind of clapped, like got tense. We didn't know if it was a heckler or an active shooter. And he said, does the carpet match the drapes? Yeah, it was fucked up. The whole crowd kind of groaned because it was so, like, mean. Everybody groaned, except for Daphne. She kind of laughed, which was weird. And she didn't even look all the way back. She said, sir, I don't have carpets. I have hardwood floors. Just like that. Just like that. And boy, when she said that shit, it blew the roof off the place. Cut through all the tension. With that one joke, she made up for 45 minutes of a stinker of a show. And after that, she could do no wrong. And I kept on rocking. She kept on talking to me. And then the show became something cooler than a show. Just became like a conversation between a black man and a white trans woman, and we started getting to the bottom of shit. All them questions that you think about that you'd be afraid to ask, I was just asking them, and she was answering them, and her answers were funny as shit. The crowd was falling out of their chairs. And at the end of the show, I go, oh, Daphne, I said, well, that was fun. I go, I love you to death, but I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. The whole crowd laughed, except for Daphne. Now she looks at me like I'm not her friend anymore. Like I'm something bigger than me, like I'm the whole world and a guy. And she said, I don't need you to understand me. I said, what? She said, I just need you to believe, just like this, she goes, that I'm having a human experience. And when she said it, the whole crowd kind of gasped. And I gave it a Fight Club look. I said, I believe you, bitch. Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it. And oh, I believe you because it takes one to know one. Then I told the crowd good night, and they start going crazy. And before the applause gets to its crescendo, I say, and don't forget my opening act, Daphne. And the crowd stood up. And I looked at her, and tears came out of her eyes. She couldn't believe it was happening. I couldn't believe it was happening because her show stunk. And it was a great night. I remember the late, great Paul Mooney was there, a bunch of fly-ass comedy niggas was there. And we all went backstage and was just drinking and talking shit and laughing, and Daphne stole the room. She had everyone cracking up, spinning the yarn, telling us all these crazy stories about shit she be into. We all laughing real hard, and then she's telling us, and everyone's laughing. I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, she is funny. I pulled her aside and I said, you're hilarious. I didn't know that when you were on stage. I said, you're doing some things wrong, but I can help you. I said, anytime I'm in San Francisco, why don't you open the show for me, and I'll just try to give you some pointers, see if you can't work this thing out. And she said, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And she grabbed me real tight, hugged me, squeezed me. And I pushed her off violently because I'm transphobic. I said, boundaries, bitch. When Sticks and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me, and apparently they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a fuck because Twitter's not a real place. And the hardest thing for a person to do is go against their tribe if they disagree with their tribe. But Daphne did that for me. She wrote a tweet that was very beautiful, and what she said was almost exactly what she said. She said, punching down on someone requires you to think less of them. And I know him, and he doesn't. He doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down, he punches lines, and he's a master at his craft. That's what she said. Beautiful tweet, beautiful friend. It took a lot of heart to defend me like that. And when she did that, the trans community dragged that bitch all over Twitter. For days, they was going in on her, and she was holding her own because she's funny. But 6 days after that wonderful night I described to you, my friend Daphne killed herself. Oh, yeah. It's a true story. My heart was broken. Yeah, it wasn't the jokes. I don't know if it was them dragging her. I don't know what's going on in her life, but I bet dragging her didn't help. I was very angry at them. I was very angry at her. I felt like Daphne lied to me. She always says she identified as a woman, and then one day she goes up to the roof of a building and jumps off and kills herself. Clearly, only a man would do some gangster shit like that. Hear me out. As hard as it is to hear a joke like that, I'm telling you right now, Daphne would have loved that joke. That's why she was my friend. Well, I have some very bad news for the people in the front rows. I heard that some of you paid as much as $800 for your tickets. Sadly, I did this same show a couple weeks ago in Atlanta for $60 a head. Can you imagine? Nigga, you could have flown to Atlanta, got a hotel, had some dinner, and came back and you still have a little money left over, niggas. Paid way too much just to see me in this gay-ass neighborhood. All right, let me roll up my sleeves and tell these pussy jokes. Will told me to say there hasn't been this many pussy references in this room since Cats was here. Boy, I gotta tell you, man, I've been doing this set all week, and boy, I've been telling these jokes, and sometimes niggas look like they're in actual pain over the jokes. None of it's that bad to me, but I understand why it could hurt some people's feelings. So tonight, I'm gonna give you an opportunity that I rarely give anybody. I'm gonna let you say whatever it is you need to say to my face, or ask me whatever it is you want to know. But there are no dumb questions allowed. If you ask a stupid question, you'll be asked to leave. Nah, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Everyone relax. Come on. Oh, yes, sir, in the front.
2 questions. How often do you write? And can I have a cigarette?
All right. First, you may have a cigarette, but remember, this is not jail, motherfucker. This lady right here.
I have a question. Do you remember this scene?
Oh, I do remember that. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. That's a terrible question. This gentleman in the front with the salmon-colored shirt on.
I was wondering if you had any advice for young comedians that you generally give, and...
Are you thinking of doing comedy?
I've never done it before, but watching you has made me want to try it.
I don't know if that's an insult or not.
It's a compliment. It's.
I mean, niggas don't say I've never done brain surgery, but it looked a lot easier than I thought. I'm teasing. All right, here'd be my advice. Okay, I don't know how comedians start nowadays, right? But what I would suggest is just start. And once you start, you can't really stop, no matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets, no matter what people say. You know what I mean? Because comedy is weird like that. You know why I hate watching other comedians do comedy? Not because I hate other comedians, but because I love comedy so much. It's like watching somebody else fuck your girl. And I say, fuck her better than that. Yes, you on the aisle up there, the lady with the long... Yes, you standing up. I see you. My favorite book of all time, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. That guy with the baseball hat.
Marry, fuck, kill, Michelle, Rihanna, Oprah.
Wait, who's Michelle? Oh, Obama. Well, sir, you're putting me in quite a pickle. I can't say I'll fuck Michelle Obama. That's insane. Well, I guess I mean, because I wouldn't kill any of those women. But I'd fuck all three of them. The gentleman in the blue Oxford standing up.
Tell us a story with Charlie Murphy.
Tell a story about Charlie Murphy?
Or your favorite.
Boy, there's so many good Charlie Murphys. You know, the thing with Charlie Murphy is he used to just make us laugh all the time. And I used to ask him about all the old Hollywood shit I was curious about. Like when they used to accuse Michael Jackson, I remember asking once, I go, Charlie, do you think Michael Jackson actually did those things? And he said, let me ask you a question, Dave. He said, say it is illegal to fuck women. How long are you staying out of jail? So God bless Charlie Murphy, wherever you are. Charlie, I love you.
Who do you think is going to win the 2020 election?
All right, I'm going to put a pin in this, but I'll tell you right now, fella, I don't know, but I think Trump has a better shot than a lot of people would like to think. I'm just saying, it all depends on how the left talks. the way we're talking is not going to win the fucking ball game. Donald Trump's over there on the right, grabbing handfuls of pussy. Joe Biden can't even smell hair over here. Fuck this side. All right, man, go ahead.
Thank you so much for this show. And
How old are you?
25.
25? Yeah. Boy, don't let R. Kelly see you. He's gonna pee on you by accident. Oh, my bad. I thought she was 15. Yuck. I'm totally joking. I'm sorry.
My question is there anything you've learned from another comedian that you feel like will stay with you for life?
I tell you what, miss, that's a good question. Yes, is the short answer. A longer version of it is this. I was raised by comedians. I started doing stand-up when I was 14. The other day, I went to a comedian's funeral, and I realized as we was putting this motherfucker in the ground that these people are at least as influential to me as my family. I rock with these niggas till the wheel falls off. We fight and we fuss and we are jealous of each other and we get mad at each other, but my life wouldn't have been what it was without each and every one of them, and I consider them my family. That's the answer. Still hadn't figured out exactly how to say what I wanted to say, but I was doing pretty good, and I was doing some Me Too jokes, and a woman stood up from the audience and she was crying. Clearly, it was a white woman. She says to me, you can't say that. It's 200 seat room, it's a very small room. I'm like, what the fuck are you, like, miss, are you okay? What are you doing? She says, you can't say that. I said, yes, I can, it's my show. I'll say whatever the fuck I want. The crowd's like, ooh, like this. And then she gets up from the table and she starts making a big, like, show, just pushing through the aisles and all this stuff. And there's like a curtain right before the front door. And she gets to the curtain and she's crying. It's fucking crazy. She says, I'm sorry I was raped. It's a fucking comedy club. It's like loud farting getting out of an elevator. Nothing funny can happen in here. Now I'm trapped in a room with this woman's fucking stink. And I say, miss, it is not your fault that you were raped. But it's not mine either. Ta-ta, bitch, like this. She storms out. Now the room is very uncomfortable, but I managed to get the crowd back. But I'm like, a little traumatized. Same show, there's a trans woman sitting in the audience. This is a true story. This was like a few weeks ago. I did 6 shows that weekend. This trans woman came to 4 of them. Calls herself Daphne. Man, this chick Daphne was in there cracking the fuck up at everything I said about everybody. It was amazing. She was laughing, and it was fun to watch her laugh. You could tell she was letting go with something that was heavy, and she'd throw her head back, and she'd smile with all her teeth. She was having a great time. And the more fun she had, I felt bad, because I knew I had some trans jokes to unload. And I thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't say these jokes because I don't want to, fuck her evening up. She's having so much fun. But then I thought to myself, well, if I can't say it in front of her, should I say this shit at all? So I let her rip. And to my surprise, Daphne laughed harder at the trans jokes than anybody in the room. In fact, everybody in the room would look at her to make sure it was okay. And I got off stage, I was in the dressing room, I was like, man, this is a fucking weird show. I'm sitting in the dressing room by myself just trying to figure out, what the fuck just happened out there? Why is it that this one woman can't take any of these jokes and Daphne can take all of these jokes? So weird. And then I realized, Daphne used to be a man. So now I go out of the dressing room and you can see all the staff is there cleaning the club up. The audience had gone. And sitting at the bar by herself was Daphne. And she's like, hey, Dave, come join me for a drink. And I don't want her to think that I'm transphobic or nothing. So I'm like, fuck, I guess I could have at least a drink. And we get some tequila and we're sitting there. And she was fucking cool. Turns out that Daphne, she wants to be a comedian. She was asking me for advice and I told her advice and all that shit. And then she says to me, she says, boy, you sure do get a bad rap for your trans jokes. I said, Daphne, thank you, but you don't have to say that. I hope I didn't offend you. She goes, no. She said, in fact, I read about you in the New York Times. I said, you did? She said, yeah. She said, I thought it was interesting that they blamed you for R. Kelly. They said you normalized him for telling jokes about him. I go, yeah, they said that. She goes, I wonder why they never said that you normalized transgenders by telling jokes about us. And I'd never thought about that. It never occurred to me. And we started making out. And then, like, I reached up just to see what it felt like. I was like, what? And it felt like pussy, didn't it? I was just like, go ahead, ask me a question.
What the fuck you gonna do if Trump get reelected?
What am I gonna do if Trump gets reelected? Probably get a significant tax break. Hey, you wanna know why I don't even talk about Trump in my show? Because that motherfucker is not the hokey pokey. He is not what it's all about. There's millions of people that put him in power, and the ideas that he puts forth are not his own. He's singing poor white people's greatest hits. So why the fuck would I worry about him and not the other millions? Really, you know who I'm gonna vote for next time if things keep going the way it's going is that gay dude. No, Mike Pence. It's a safe place where I could tell some jokes. And I find out that this comedian I know, Chris Tucker, who's in all those Rush Hour movies, I find out that Chris is in San Francisco too at some charity event. So I call him, I'm like, yo, I just saw you at some charity event. I said, I'm doing a show at the Punchline. Why don't you come by the club after your event? He's like, cool, Dave. I thought you was dead, nigga. I'll come by. He says, is it okay if I bring some friends? Because, you know, I'm with a lot of people. I go, man, you Chris Tucker. You can bring whoever the fuck you want. And then I show up to the club late that night. And I walk into the dressing room. And sitting in the dressing room is Gavin Newsom, who at the time was the mayor of San Francisco, but now he's the governor of California. And sitting next to him was Kamala Harris, who at the time was the DA of San Francisco. Now she's the senator from California that's front-running on the Democratic ticket. And sitting next to her was Al Gore. It's fucking weird. And sitting next to Al Gore was the guys from Google, Sergey, and I don't know how to say these. All right. And it was Chris Tucker and Ben Jealous, who at the time was the president of the NAACP, who was all just at this big charity dinner, and Paul Mooney was drinking scotch. And we all was just in there. And, you know, first I was a little uncomfortable when we started talking, and we all got along really well. At some point, Kamala Harris she says to me, she goes, you know, a friend of mine is announcing his candidacy for president tomorrow. I went to college with him. I'm like, what? I go, Barack Obama? She goes, you've heard of him? I'm like, yo, I just read about this dude. And she goes, yo, yeah, blah, 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 we talking. She goes, you know what? She says, let's call him on the phone. I said, what the fuck? And she picks the phone up and she dials and she's listening like this. And she goes, this is voicemail. And she gives me the phone, she goes, leave him a message. You know, I didn't know what to say. I just said what you say to any black dude that's running for president. You know, stay low, running a zigzag pattern, this kind of shit. And then the last thing I say is, you know what? I said, sir, I really do believe you can do this. Like, man, I'm wishing you luck. Now, next day I wake up and go for coffee at a place called the Embarcadero. It's like an eatery by the sea in San Francisco. And I'm walking to the coffee shop and there's a police line and I can't cross the tape. But then I figure, fuck it, I'm Dave Chappelle, so I go into the thing like this. And the police yoke me. These motherfuckers like tackle me immediately. And I see over the police's shoulder Gavin Newsom. I couldn't remember his name, but I remember the night before I had kept teasing him and saying he looked like Christian Bale, the guy from the Batman movies. So I see him, and I can't remember the name, so I'm just like, Batman, help! And he stops. He's like, Dave? And then the police see that the mayor knows me, so they all like, oh, sorry about that. And he's like, hey, back up, everybody. And he just picks me up. He's like, I'm really sorry about that. I'm like, I'm fine, don't worry about it. And he's like, listen, I'm here with Prince. Would you like to meet him? I'm like, I know Prince. That's my nigga. And we go around the corner, and it was Prince Charles, the Prince of England. I didn't know the protocol of meeting royalty. You're not supposed to touch him. I dapped him up like a nigga. My nigga. Ah! Just hugging him and shit like this, dapping him up. Like this. And that nigga was cool, too. I was like, that's really fucking weird. And then I was just out there in the upside down, not having no TV show, trying to figure life out. And the election was going on in the background. And this guy, Barack Obama, was picking up steam. This motherfucker was killing it. And I had a chance to go to the last debate on the Democratic ticket, and I went. It's me and Chris Tucker sitting in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's the last three candidates. It was Barack Obama, John Edwards, and Hillary Clinton. Now, Obama's a lot taller than Edwards and Clinton, and he had the center podium. And at one point, they're all on stage, and they start fussing, and Obama goes, look, none of us are perfect, like this. And his hands was like this, and there was light shining behind his head, and the other two candidates was looking up at the nigga, and I was sitting in the audience like, this nigga looks like Jesus. And I realized in that moment that I was looking at the next president of the United States. I was certain of it. I couldn't explain it, but I knew what I was seeing. And I got really excited. And I'm not that kind of guy. I said, I gotta meet this motherfucker. So I stayed. They were all on stage doing interviews, and I just waited. I was waiting and waiting, and then John Edwards was done with his interviews first, because everybody knew he wasn't going to win. And I see John Edwards, and I said, hey, Senator Edwards, I just want to say hi. And that motherfucker looked at me like, I'm like, fuck you, nigga, you gonna lose anyway. And then he left, and then Hillary Clinton just walked by me in one of them Steve Harvey suits. But Obama was taking forever. Everybody wanted to talk to him. When I knew the media saw exactly what I saw, there was no question about it. That was the guy. I waited and I waited, and finally, it must have been over an hour and a half, he finishes his last interview. He's like, well, thank you very much. Good talking to you. And he turns around, and we make eye contact. He sees me, and when he sees me, he looks over, he goes, Dave Chappelle. And Obama did me the same way I did Prince Charles. He dapped me up, and he like bro hugged me, and he pulled me in, and I'll never forget this. He said in my ear, I got your message. Thank you very much, New York City. You know what I said? That's all I said. First of all, I'll tell you right now what I said, and I will tell you that this was not a joke. It's a true story, and I just happened to tell it. All right, what happened was I went to a gallery party, all right? I don't know who in here has ever been rich before, but these are very nice parties. You know, wine and cheese and baller conversation. And there was a few eccentric types, one of which was a very wealthy man that happened to be wearing a dress. I don't know what you call him, man. He was a tranny or drag queen, perhaps. Whatever it was definitely a man. And this man was definitely on drugs. I don't know what kind of drugs he's on, but I knew he had too much. He didn't look good. It's like this, he's like, he looked sick. And all his friends were standing around him, concerned, trying to revive him. I don't know whether it looked like some kind of gay CPR, this fanning and shit. I saw all this from a distance. Now, I should have minded my own business, but I got curious. I was like, oh. And I went over there. All I said, excuse me, gentlemen, is he okay? And then they looked at me like I was evil. Oh. She is fine. I said, word? Oh. I'm sorry, I didn't know this is what we were doing. Here's my thing. I would support anybody's right to be whoever they feel like they are inside. I'm your ally in that. However, my question is, to what degree do I have to participate in your self-image? Is it fair that I have to change my whole pronoun game up for this motherfucker? That doesn't make sense. Seriously. If I put on an Argyle sweater and I'm like, hey everybody, I feel like a white guy in this sweater and I want some goddamn respect and a bank loan, that's not gonna work. Give a fuck how I feel, why should I give a fuck how you feel? Nigger is a pronoun. But there was no time for philosophical debate. This was an emergency situation. I said, fine. Sorry, guys. I was just worried because she looks terrible. She just fell off the bench. Appears that her dick is popping out of her dress. You mind if I call an ambulance, champ? I'd rather not be at a party where a tranny ODs. There's too many questions to answer. Okay, I've been through this before. I had a friend from high school. Now, in high school, this guy was a thug, Will, right? He was a fucking dope boy. He did it all. He's a wild dude. People used to be very scared of him. And then after high school, word on the street was he'd come out the closet. I personally didn't believe it. I bring him up because last year, he calls me out of the blue like, yo, what's up, man? I got your number from so-and-so, and I heard you're going to be in New York doing a show. Could I get some tickets? I was like, fuck yeah, get some tickets, man. How you been? He said, well, we'll catch up at the show, man, but yo, I appreciate it. I'll see you soon. I said, all right, man, take care. And I was about to hang up, and I couldn't resist. I was just like, hey, nigga, I heard you was gay. What's going on with that? And I wish I didn't ask, because he sounded like he was dying to talk about that shit. And he had a long story about it. And it's not that I didn't care, but I was, I don't like talking on the phone. I was watching TV at the same time. So I just wasn't really paying attention like I should. But I was trying to sound supportive, but I didn't really know what to say. So I was just like mumbling shit throughout this conversation. I was just like, nigga, you gay, man. You just gay. Like, This went on for a while, and then finally I had to say something like definitive to get him off the phone. And I was like, hey, man, you know what? Don't let people get you down, all right? And the next time someone tries to make you feel bad about yourself, just remember, everybody fucks funny to somebody. He didn't like that shit. He's like, what the fuck does that mean? I said, huh? He said, you saying I fuck funny, motherfucker? I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying everybody's different. He said, you ain't say different, nigga. You say it funny. What's so fucking funny about the way I fuck? And I said, hey, man, I fuck feet. He said, what? Oh, this is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. I get women to squeeze their feet together like this, and I fuck them right in that little space in their feet. But you can't build a community behind that shit. There's no flag for us. That shit made him laugh. And the next day, after the show, I saw him backstage. He was like, yo, what's up, man? I'm like, oh, shit, what's going on? And he had his buddy with him. He goes, Dave, I want you to meet Manuel. Manuel's my fiance. We're in New York getting married because it's legal here. I said, well, congratulations, fellas. And Manuel was like, gracias. And he went to go get some drinks. And then my buddy looked at me, he was like, so Dave, what do you think? And I started mumbling again. You gay, nigga, you just gay. He said, yeah, I'm a little nervous about getting married, man. It's a big step. I said, yeah, it is. It's a big step. He said, well, you've been married for a while. You got any advice for us? No, I'm married to a woman. Sorry about that. And they corrected me. He said, no, you married the person that you love. So it's essentially the same. I said, man, the problem with that statement is that it makes the assumption that I love her. But you guys lighten the fuck up. Of course I love my wife. She laughs at this shit. As a matter of fact, she eats and spends this shit. You know what I told him? I told him, I said, you know what you should do, man? First of all, you shouldn't do it. I'm talking about being legally married. It's not that you're gay as much as just legal marriage is a fucking diabolical leverage game in the United States. I'm just being honest. Devoid of religious significance or the idea of love, marriage is nothing but an awful contract that you shouldn't sign. I'm just being real. Because you start out loving each other, and then like 2 years later, you're just building a case against one another for a hypothetical court date that may or may not ever happen. You throw being gay on top of that, that shit is explosive. Like I said, Ray Rice shit. Okay, right after Ray Rice went through all that shit, I was at a party and I met this kid, Michael Sams. You know Michael Sams? Very nice guy. He's the first openly gay NFL player. And Mike's a very nice guy, a very brave guy. But when I met him, I couldn't help but thinking, now what's gonna happen when Michael Sams beats his wife up in the elevator? Is that domestic violence or is that just two niggas working shit out in the elevator? You know what I mean? Anyway, I give all married men the same advice, gay or straight. Get a dog. This dog will love you all the time, but she's not going to. It's real talk. I didn't even know about dogs, and my kids got the dog. They brought him home from the shelter, and I didn't even want him. They're like, can we keep him? I said, nope. I said, where'd you even get this dog? They're like, we got him from the shelter. I was like, ugh. Probably something wrong with him. Can't keep him. And then my kids started crying and screaming like the dog had gambling debts. Please, Dad, if you don't let us keep him, they're gonna kill him. I was like, oh. All right, you can keep him. And this dog was a menace. I hated his guts. And then one night I'd smoked a bunch of weed and I was eating a sandwich and Baba came over. Baba's the dog. He came over and was staring at me. This will make you very uncomfortable if you're just looking at you usually. I had to give him a piece of my sandwich so he'd go away. And that's how we became friends. Now, if you see me walking down the street with Baba, I ain't got no leash or nothing. He walks right next to me. If I stop, he'll stop. And if I go, he'll go. And all my friends are like, yo, Dave, that shit is dope. How you train Baba to do that shit? I've never trained Baba. I'm just a messy eater. If I drop food and Baba's not around, all I gotta do is call him. Baba! He's a black dude's dog, so he doesn't come right away. He peeks first to see what's going on. I gotta tap my foot so he can see the food. Over here, little buddy. And he's like, thanks, Dave. He'll come get it and run off. Man, I gotta tell you, when I was sitting here watching what all the other honorees have done with their lives, I started feeling like shit. Like, this is terrible. And then Bobo brought me up and started out good with that Ali picture, and then it just... But that coloring book that was in the picture, I know the Ali's are here, that coloring book, my mother has it. And the champ, he signed it. You know, the greatest, he signed it, Muhammad Ali. And his sparring partner was there that day. And his sparring partner signed it, said the next heavyweight champion in the world, Larry Holmes. And he was. And 2-year-old Dave Chappelle colored all in that shit and just ruined the book. But I remember part of the book that I remember real vividly because I asked my mother about it when I was a kid. There's a part where there's a picture of Ali throwing his Olympic gold medal into the Ohio River. That's why it's so weird for me being here. You know, both my parents were very brilliant. My dad went to Brown in 1955. That's right. He told me at the time he was one of 3 black students. He said one of the guys got accused of a rape that he probably didn't commit, and the other guy killed himself. And Dad said, and I left. And see, that's what makes us Chappelle's great. We know when to quit. We all just live to fight another day. I gotta say, I'm very honored to be here, and I'm very honored to be here with the other honorees. Really, I'm like very humbled by you all, the work that you do, and you all make me want to be better. All of you. And you know, I was gonna stop doing stand-up for a while because 4 comedy specials in a year is like, that's a lot, you know. But you know, shout out to my colleagues in comedy. I just want to say that in a way, this for me belongs to my mother primarily, who was a African American studies professor, and a lot of the content that I say, she raised me well. I'm not an uninformed person. But also, you know, my colleagues in comedy, like comedians have been getting beat up pretty bad recently, and we're somehow nowadays expected to speak with the precision of attorneys or politicians. We are not. I always think of James Baldwin. You know, James Baldwin was one of my favorite writers because he managed to tell white people what they feel like to be around. So I ain't gonna hang up my gloves yet. I think I got one more special in me. So to quote Baldwin, God gave Noah the rainbow sign. It's no more water, it's the fire next time. Thank you very much.
And so if you would, please join me in welcoming Dave Chappelle home again.
Oh. Thank you. You know, I speak for a living, and I'm a little nervous today. I wanted to say thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Bishop Green, and thank everyone at Allen University for hosting me today, because it feels special, right? When I think of this great-grandfather that I've heard about in my life, but never actually touched his legacy. So it's like the product of his loins coming to meet the product of his work. And it's an important day for me personally. And I know a lot of you guys are students, and I just want to tell you I'm the first person in my family to not go to college. And as the president has told you, I've done outstanding in spite of that. But one thing I did want to say, and one thing today just made me think about, for all the things that I've done, I'm most renowned for what I didn't do. I've made decisions in my career that a lot of people have called insane. 2004, had a $50 million deal on the table, and in a crisis of conscience, flipped the table over and walked away. Went to South Africa. Everyone said I was running away from the money. That is not true. In fact, I still want that money. The idea that I wanted to just share with you guys is the idea that sometimes you do what you think is best, whether anybody understands it or not. I heard a story about my father where someone told me he used to do statistics for a company in D.C. The company he did statistics for started doing business with the South African government, so he quit his job. It's caused a lot of problems between him and his wife. It's hard for a man when he can't provide for his family the way he wants to, and he suffered through it. And a generation later, when I had my crisis of conscience, I was able to go to a free South Africa and get away from the heat. This idea that what you do in your lifetime informs the generations that comes after you is something I keep thinking about, something that is so much bigger than just ourselves. And today I'm standing in front of you guys, and I know you guys are like, oh, I know you're bored. But I see family of mine in the front row some who I've never met, and I just realize how all of us are connected. That my great-grandfather built something more substantial than buildings. He built a community. And he built, more importantly than a community, he built a way. You know, so I'm very grateful. Very grateful. Hello, police. I just saw him saying, you know what I mean? He's standing over like, so this is what black people talk about. I just want you guys to remember, you know, that right now there's this thing where ethics aren't what they used to be. This idea that people are trying to replace the ideas of good and bad with better or worse. And that is incorrect. You gotta keep your ethics intact because good and bad is a compass that helps you find the way. And a person that only does what's better or worse is the easiest type of person to control. They are a mouse in a maze that just finds the cheese. But the one who knows about good and bad will realize that he's in a maze. So, that being said, I just hope that all of you guys transcend whatever you see as your obstacles and that you live outstanding lives and that you stay connected to your communities because you have so much power there, and that you grow your communities and you diversify your communities, and that you don't let anybody tell you you can't or to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid because you can't be brave or courageous without fear. The idea of being courageous is that even though you're scared, you just do the right thing anyway. So in 2004, I walked away from $50 million, and in November, I made a deal for $60 million. So, although I am not the most famous comedian of my time, I would like to know what their great-grandfathers did. I'm very proud today. Thank you very much. Boy, comes as a complete surprise. I mean, I read all the reviews and they